Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In this video we will be discussing on how to study neuroanatomy in medical school. I will be making a subsequent video on how to study neuropathology and neurophysiology, but I do believe that as long as you've got your neuroanatomy covered, I don't think you will have any problem in your neurophysiology and your neuropathology courses. Before beginning, I would like to tell you a couple of things. Number one is that although the course may seem very daunting at first, but as long as you cover it well and you cover it from the right resources, it can become one of your strongest courses in medical school. There's just something so fascinating about neuro in general that I do believe that you can easily fall in love with it if you try hard enough. The second thing is that I do not recommend you using a textbook for neuroanatomy. I do not recommend you using a textbook as your primary resource for neuroanatomy because it's such a complicated and such a wide subject that you need to have a holy grail video resource for this subject, at least for neuroanatomy. So this video will be divided into three parts. In the first part, I will be telling you about all the video resources that I recommend. In the second part, we will be talking about the books and the review books that I recommend. And at the end, I will talk about my own notes and we'll go through them and we'll try to understand how I made neuroanatomy easier for me. So let's begin with the video series. These are the video lectures that I followed for my neuroanatomy classes. I'll go through them one by one and you can then pick and choose whatever videos lecture series that you like. The first one is of course the Holy Grail Dr. Najib. Now Dr. Najib has a tremendous amount of information in that video lecture series he has of neuroanatomy. He does a great job in it. He explains everything very much in detail and just amazingly. So if you don't want to use anything else, you can easily use just Dr. Najib and pass the entire course with great numbers. The only problem that I had with Dr. Najib was that it was really very long, and because in that particular semester neuroanatomy wasn't the only thing I was doing, it becomes really hard to go back and revise it because the videos are just too long to review. But again, it's a great resource, and if you have the time, if you have the means, and if you think that the only resource that you're gonna use is just videos, then Dr. Najib is the one I recommend. The second video series that I recommend is by UBC Medicine Educational Media. This is a YouTube channel that you can, I'll put all the links down below of all the YouTube channels so you don't have to worry about that. But this one is from a Canadian medical school, and they have done such a cinematic they have given such a cinematic experience to the entire neuroanatomy course that I just love watching it. I highly recommend you see this video series because it would feel like you're not even watching an educational video series. It would feel like you're watching some movie or something. It's just amazing. They have done a really good job. The third video series that I recommend is by Draw It to Know It. This one is also a YouTube channel, and I'll put the link down below of all of them. So yeah, anyway, he actually draws a lot of neuroanatomy, and I do believe that to understand anatomy in general, but neuroanatomy more specifically, drawing it is the best you can do. So if you're one of those people who don't really know how to go about it, I think just watching this video series would give you a rough idea on how to draw things out, and then you can make your own notes with it. Anatomy Zone and Teach Me Anatomy are the two resources that I recommend anyone generally for anatomy, but also neuroanatomy. They do a really good job, so you can check them out as well. The last one is of course Kaplan Neuro. Kaplan does a great job in explaining a lot of very tough neuroanatomy topics. So if you can get your hands on the video series through a senior, or you can buy them, then I do recommend you do them. Kaplan Neuro is actually really good. I personally like the 2014 version, but there are I think one 2018 version and one 2017 version, but my personal choice is 2014 Kaplan Neuro. Now these are all the video lecture series that would explain the topics to you, like just explain them or draw them out. But I do recommend you to at least do one dissection series of brain and spinal cord. In my university we didn't really do dissections. We had the models, but we never really did dissections. But I do believe that if you have not seen a brain cut half and open, it's just impossible to make sense of what is going on. You need to see it, and then only then you can remember it really well. Now there are tons of dissection of brain and spinal cords available on YouTube, so you can check them out. But the one dissection series that I personally highly recommend is this one. I don't know how to pronounce this word, but this one, I'll put a link down below again. But this one has an amazing dissection series, and at the same time the person is dissecting, she's also explaining a lot of clinical scenarios and giving us 3D models of it too, of the brain and spinal cord. So it's really fascinating. I do recommend you do it. So so I basically, in the video thing, I recommend you have a holy grail video resource from which you can understand the topic, and then a dissection series so that you can remember the topic really well and you can picture it in your brain. So yeah, these are all the video series that I recommend. Now moving on to the textbooks and the books that I recommend. So the primary textbook that I used for my neuroanatomy classes was by Snail, the Snail Neuroanatomy. I don't have it with me. It was a book that I got from library and then I returned it. But Neuroanatomy by Dr. Snail is really good. If you are going to use a primary textbook, I do recommend using that. There is one by B.D. Chaurasia as well. I don't really like B.D. Chaurasia in general, therefore I never got around using it. A lot of students do use KLM and Grace as well for neuroanatomy. So if you're one of those students who has used those books for anatomy in general, then for neuroanatomy, of course, you can just go ahead and use them. So if you have used Gray for the rest of your anatomy, you can use it for your neuroanatomy as well. I used Dr. Snail for the rest of my anatomy, so I decided to use it for my neuroanatomy as well. So this was all about the primary textbook. For review book, I recommend, if you are doing the Kaplan neuroanatomy lecture series, then I think you should also do the Kaplan neuroanatomy notes. It would be a great resource to hammer down the information. For review book, I recommend doing the high yield neuroanatomy book. I have not used it personally because my professor gave us a review book of his own, and we decided to use that because, of course, it was for my own university thing. But this is very highly recommended generally, and because I'm studying for step 1 right now, so I would be using this to review my neuroanatomy course. So yeah, it's very popular and it's really highly recommended. I personally, as a review book, used the BRS series when I was doing my medical course, in addition to the book that my professor gave me. But it's brand new. As you can see, I have not used it yet, but it is really popular. So I mean, there has to be something about it. So this is all for the books. Now let's move on to my own notes, and I'll give you a couple of tips on how you can make your own good notes for neuroanatomy. So I'm going to talk about tracts, and then I'm going to talk about tracts first, and I think that would just explain my general outlook on how to make notes for neuroanatomy. As you can see, this is what is going on. I have taken cross sections of brain at different levels, and I've drawn the tracts out like that. It's because the tracts go in this direction, right? The tracts go from spinal cord towards the brain, right? So I've taken different cross sections at different sites, and then I've added the tracts in with the nuclei, and that kind of explains the information to me in a general way, and at the same time I can look the entire information at one glance. So what I'm trying to say basically is that make notes which not only summarize the information in the neuroanatomy course, but also would help you get the entire idea with one glance. So these are the notes that I made for tracts. As you can see, this is a cross section of your spinal cord, and then you go lower half of the closed medulla, then you move on to your the upper half, and then you move on to your pons, and like that, because I'm going upwards and I'm cutting the brains at different sections so that I can get the entire view of the tracts in one glance. At the same time, I can get all these nuclei at one glance. And of course, if you're doing neuroanatomy, you have to know that tracts and nuclei are one of the most crucial part of the neuroanatomy series that you'll do. Okay, and at the same time, I've drawn almost everything in neuroanatomy. I have made sure to draw the skull out, and these are from the Draw It to Know It video series. So I got my idea from them, and then I've also drew things like like these motor nuclei and everything. I've drawn the hippocampal formation. So I do recommend you draw all these important topics out and don't just rely on the books or the videos, because as long as you don't draw it out and don't put it in a spatial formation, I don't think you can properly learn neuroanatomy. So yeah, these are the different types of notes that I've used, and I hope they kind of sort of make sense to you, or it kind of sort of makes sense to you of what I'm trying to say. At the same time, I would like to tell you that I want you to do the blood vessels and the vascular supply at the very end. So after you're done with your entire neuroanatomy, do the vessels at the very end, put in the vasculature at the very end of it, because if you've already know what goes around in the brain and what is going on in different areas, if you would figure out what would happen if some certain area of the brain is not being supplied, because you already know the anatomy of it and its function. So that's the second tip I'll give you. The first tip is make sure your notes not only summarize but put everything at a glance. The second tip is that put the vascular supply, learn the vascular supply at the very end. This is pretty much it that I want to tell you about neuroanatomy. It might seem very daunting at first, and I won't say that doing neuroanatomy once overall would help you get great scores and would help you understand everything. You have to do neuroanatomy at least twice before your exams to make sense of it. But again, I would like to say that once you get the hang of it, and once you understand the patterns and how common it is to see those patterns being repeated, I think you will easily find it one of your favorite subjects at the end of the day. Yeah, so I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, then please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one. Bye.